On today's show, Anthony Edwards calls game with some clutch plays. He gonna pull the Timberwolves back into contention, and then Kyrie Irving out for the Dallas Mavericks. Are they doomed? We'll tell you in today's Locked On NBA Game Night.
When that final buzzer rings, you know it's time for Locked On NBA Game Night. All the post-game reactions to every game across the league, every single night, with insights only the hosts at Locked On can provide. It's the true NBA fans' one stop for all the action. Every game, every night. It's Locked On NBA Game Night. Tipping off now.
And welcome, you are Locked On to NBA Game Night. My name is Nick Angstadt, host of the Locked On Mavericks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for being an everydayer, making Locked On NBA Game Night your first listen today. Today's episode is sponsored by FanDuel. From big upsets to game-winning drives, the NFL playoffs are better with FanDuel. New customers can bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Win or lose, visit FanDuel.com to get started. And joining me, as always on a game night from great Locked On Bucks show, what you got for me, Camille Davis?
I am just happy to be back. This illness tried to take me out, Nick, but I'm back and I got to see a bunch of comebacks while my comeback.
Did you get taken out by the same illness that has taken out the Mavs?
I don't know what is going around. It's taking out Bucks. It's taking out me. It's taking out families. Taking out friends. Hide your kids. Hide everybody. Like it's bad out here.
Like all the drama and rumor mill and slop in the NBA right now, the illness for the Mavs can be traced back to Jimmy Butler. He had it first. He was questionable, then played a game, and then everybody else got sick from there. But we got a lot of stuff. 9 games in the association, great ones. We had 4 double-digit comebacks, ton of comebacks tonight. So we'll talk about Miami losing in double overtime after being up 17 in the fourth quarter. The Knicks got shocked by the Magic. We've got a bunch of other things. And the Sixers lose to the Suns. Who's worse off, the Sixers or the Suns? We'll talk about that in Count It Up, where we count out the most interesting, fun things in the NBA. But let's start here. The Clippers versus the Minnesota Timberwolves. The Timberwolves get a win. Clippers were up by 19 points in the second quarter. Then the Timberwolves go up by 10 in the third quarter, a 42-13 stretch from the middle of the second quarter to the middle of the third quarter. A huge moment for them. And then down the end of the stretch, the Clippers were up by 5 with like 4 minutes left, and Anthony Edwards completely took over. Let's hear from our guy, Ben Beacon of Locked On Wolves.
Wolves finally make a change to their starting lineup, and lo and behold, they win a basketball game. I'm Ben Beacon, host of the Locked On Wolves podcast, and the Timberwolves beat the Clippers by 2 points on Monday night, breaking a 3-game losing streak. Dante DiVincenzo joined the starting lineup in place of Mike Conley, the first game Mike Conley's ever come off the bench for in a Timberwolves uniform, and it was a well-timed adjustment by Chris Finch. DiVincenzo had 15 points and 9 rebounds for the Wolves, and Conley was effective off the bench too, scoring 11 points, having 3 assists in just 26 minutes. The Wolves were down by as many as 19 points in the second quarter of this game. A Target Center was a graveyard. It was just another, felt like a 4th loss in a row for Minnesota, but a big comeback bridging the second and third quarters, led by really the bench unit once again. And also down the stretch, Anthony Edwards scored a bunch of points for Minnesota, assisted on every other bucket they got in the final moments, and Ant turned in a 37-point performance on the heels of 53 points in the loss on Saturday. Make sure to subscribe to Locked On Wolves for all things Timberwolves.
Yeah, Anthony Edwards, some massive buckets. He was absolutely big when the Timberwolves went up by, the Timberwolves were down by 5. Anthony Edwards had an and one, then a 3, then another kick to Jaden McDaniels for a 3 a little bit later, and then a sidestep 3 with a minute left to put them up 2, and then another ISO sidestep 3 to put them up by 5 at the end. It was just a massive Anthony Edwards run to end this game.
We heard Anthony Edwards a few days ago talk about how he ain't really here to pass the ball. Like he wants to score, and he's gotten the opportunity to do so over the last few. Anthony Edwards scored 28 of his 37 points in the second half of this game against the Clippers, and they needed every single point because even though they made that change to the starting lineup to try to, fix getting off to slow starts, they still got off to a slow start, but they were able to figure it out as the game on, really leaning on the back of Anthony Edwards.
Yeah, Anthony Edwards only had 6 points through the first 23 minutes of this game, like most of the first half. Didn't have a lot. And yeah, he went on that crazy run. The other thing I noticed about that crazy run from the second to the third quarter of that 42-13 stretch that really changed the tide of this game. Julius Randle only played 5 out of the 12 minutes in that stretch. He only played 23 minutes overall, had a little bit of foul trouble, but I don't know. There's something there where they went on their big run and it was It was Anthony Edwards, Rudy Gobert, Jaden McDaniels, Mike Conley was out there for a lot of it, and Naz Reid was out there for a lot of it. It was like the guys that had played together.
Yeah, the group that kind of got you to where you got to last year, that Western Conference Finals. Like, I had questions about that Randall Cat trade from the jump. I thought that the Dante addition to the Wolves would be like the biggest part of it, the biggest positive for them. And Dante being inserted to the starting lineup, getting his run there has been helpful. But there are some questions around that fit with Julius Randle and how he kind of can clunk up what they're doing offensively, taking away some of those driving lanes from Anthony Edwards. They got to figure that out.
Yeah, I feel like every game, every Timberwolves game, it's like, hey, either Timberwolves lose, what did Julius Randle do? Timberwolves win, well, what did Julius Randle do? Like, I keep going back to that, but it's the squeaky wheel, right? That keeps coming back. On the Clippers side, it was Kawhi Leonard's second game back. He plays 20 minutes, just scores 8 points, 3 of 11 from the field. He's minus 17 in the minutes that he played, but I thought, at least athletically, he looked pretty good out there. It looked like he's eventually going to get back to Kawhi Leonard form, and it's nice for the Clippers to have just one more offensive creator because they need that every once in a while to get a guy that can just get a bucket. And between him, Norm Powell, who had 25 in this game, and then Harden, like I think the Clippers are going to be all right.
Yeah, I mean, Norm Powell has really been like that Paul George replacement for them this year in the sense of like that guy who's going and getting them buckets.
He's been better than Paul George this year.
Low key, he has. I'm not going to argue with you on that one, Nick. But, I mean, like you said, it's good to have Kawhi back, another body. You know what he can do. And right now, he's still getting his legs underneath him. No matter how much training you do trying to get back into game shape, there's nothing like the actual games that get you into the shape you need to be in and continue throughout the season.
Speaking of needing to get into game shape, the Dallas Mavericks are down bad right now. Oh, man, the team that I cover is not doing great at the moment. They are lost 5 in a row now. They lose to the Memphis Grizzlies tonight without Kyrie Irving. Obviously, Luka Doncic has been out. Kyrie Irving was out with an illness a couple days ago. Then yesterday, the Mavs called it, said he was going to be out with a lumbar injury. And then today, it's reported by Shams Charania that Kyrie has a bulging disc in his back. He's going to be out for 1 to 2 weeks, and then they're going to reevaluate in the next couple of days and see how long it's going to take. Our friend in street clothes, Jeff Stotts, on Twitter said that on average, players that don't need surgery on a bulging disc type injury are out for like 28 days, so almost a month. And so you're looking at that for the Dallas Mavericks. Luka's already out for another month, and this is tough. Like this was a game that you needed to win if you're the Dallas Mavericks because there's no John Morant, there's no Desmond Bane. It was just Jaren Jackson Jr. being the best player on the floor. But the Mavs role players just could not get enough offense. They had enough in the first quarter, but did not have enough the rest of the game. And without Luka and Kyrie for about a month, that's tough in the Western Conference.
Yeah, that was the question I was going to ask to you, but you mentioned it too. This was a weird game because it's a game with two teams without their starting backcourt. So it was like, how do you overcome that? But for the Mavericks, like without Luka and without Kyrie, that's like what, 50, 51 points a game that you have to make up somehow. Like that's a heavy load to try to carry. So what is the pathway forward for the Mavericks to just kind of tread water during this phase without those two guys? Because as you mentioned, it's been 5 straight losses from the Mavericks. We're 20-11, now 20-16. Like, what happens? And Gafford left the game injured too. Like, now what?
He tweaked his ankle as well. They did get Najee Marshall back from that ridiculous suspension
the fight.
from the fight. And have you ever seen the show Hamilton? There's a part where they're in one of the wars in the they're in one of the battles of the Revolutionary War. There's a song that goes, "Stay alive." They just sing that over and over again. And that's what the Mavericks are going to have to do over this stretch. Like, just find a way. They're 4 games above 500 right now. They've got a really tough stretch the rest of the next couple of weeks. They have they'll play the Lakers today, tomorrow, Tuesday, whenever you're listening to this. They play Portland, then they play Denver twice, both at home, but still. Then they play the Pelicans, okay. Then they play the Thunder. Then they play the Hornets, all right. Then they play the Timberwolves, who we just talked about are playing decently well. Then they play the Thunder again. Then they play the Celtics. Like, this is just a really tough stretch. The Mavs just need to find any way to get 1 to 2 wins over the course of that stretch and just find any way to just stay afloat. But you know what the Dallas Mavericks do? They've done it 2 out of the last 3 years. Is they go on a crazy run in February and March. And if all goes right injury-wise and health recovery-wise for the Mavs, it puts Luka and Kyrie back by like the trade deadline, February 8th. Puts them up kind of both right about back right about then. If they do, the Mavs do what they do. But this is a tough stretch for the Dallas Mavericks with who they have, because they just don't have enough offense. Jaden Hardy has not taken that step forward. He had 15 points today, but was pretty bad. And, turning the ball over. Spencer Dinwiddie has been real up and down. He'll give you 30 like he did the other night against the Kings. And then tonight who went 2 of 3.
Klay Thompson.
Yeah, Klay Thompson, all the Mavs, top scorers today all shot 30%. You're just not going to win a basketball game that way. So they're going to have to find out different ways to win. The Grizzlies did find a way to win this game without a bunch of their players too, and they're finding ways to win without injured guys. Let's hear from our guy, Joe Mullinax of Locked On Grizzlies.
Yes, basketball is fun once again. Thank goodness.
Stop. No, it's not, Joe. No, it's not. No, it's for whom, Joe? Okay, I'm done. Sorry. Continue, Joe.
Right after a tough trip out to California, the Memphis Grizzlies find a way to win, picking up a big one without John Morant and Desmond Bane in the friendly confines of FedEx Forum against the Dallas Mavericks. I'm Joe Mullinax of Locked On Grizzlies, and yeah, Dallas didn't have Luka Doncic, they didn't have Kyrie Irving, but the Grizzlies didn't have John Dez, as I explained. They did have. They had Jaren Jackson Jr., and he was more than enough. An extremely powerful performance on both ends of the court. He wasn't alone, of course. Luke Kennard had a really strong showing. So too did Jr. bouncing back nicely after a tough trip out west. It was a reminder, though, that this Grizzlies team is among the very best in the NBA. And whether it's the rumored Jimmy Butler transaction that may come down the pike or some sort of other move, even if it's just being healthy, these Grizzlies, the time is now to compete for a title run.
We both made the exact same head tilt move
at the same time.
When he said Jimmy Butler. First, let's just do this real quick. Are you buying that they can, if they get Jimmy Butler, or even if they don't, that they could contend for a title?
I think they could without Jimmy Butler if they can stay healthy. If they're healthy, the Grizzlies are a really good team, and the way that Ja's able to play when he's healthy, the defense they have, Jackson taking the next step with his offense as well. They have something cooking in Memphis.
Oh, you just said cooking in Memphis. All I could think of was barbecue.
Of course.
That's the only thing I could think of. But yeah, Memphis Grizzlies, that's a good win for a depleted team right there. And if they get everybody back, even without a Jimmy Butler trade, like you said, I think they'd have to have Jimmy Butler. They need that guy they need that one more scorer, I feel like. And I don't know that Desmond Bane can be that extra one next to John Morant. And Jaren Jackson Jr., I don't know that he's doing that unless it's against a team like the Dallas Mavericks, who are really depleted tonight. Or Jaren Jackson hit every hook shot he took tonight. Coming up, let's talk about Miami and Sacramento. Miami was up 17 points in the fourth quarter, and they go into double overtime. Who was the hero? Who was the villain? It wasn't Tyler Hero, by the way. We'll talk about that and more coming up. Today's episode of Locked On NBA Game Night is brought to you by FanDuel. FanDuel Sportsbook has all kinds of props and odds, things that you can use to get in on the action. From big upsets to game-winning drives, the NFL playoffs are better with FanDuel. You've got to go see what they've got available at FanDuel. You can go check out all the NFL playoff odds. You can check out the college football playoff odds as well. If you go look and see what they have available right now, let's go. The Green Bay Packers are 4.5-point underdog against the Eagles. So Camille's Packers have some work to do. But right now, if you want to put down $5, you can get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed, $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. The FanDuel app gives you everything you need for live bets, same game parlays, and so much more. Visit FanDuel.com to join today and get started with $200 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com. Make this NFL season unforgettable with FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Thanks for hanging out with us on Locked On NBA Game Night, being part of this show and being an everydayer. We have a daily Locked On show that covers every single team. Think about an NBA team. You got one in your head? Okay. We have a show that covers that, and it's excellent. I know, because I brought them all in. So Locked On Bucks, Locked On Mavs. We have Locked On Heat that just have been talking about Jimmy Butler all the time and now have to talk about a double overtime loss. And I'm sure Matt George will be very happy to talk about this double overtime win for the Sacramento Kings. Like we said, the Heat were up by 17 in the fourth quarter. The Kings rallied all the way back. Some awful mistakes from the Heat in the last couple of minutes. An 8-second violation with 1:24 left, and they were only up 2. Highsmith had a swipe down foul on Sabonis that was unneeded after a defensive rebound. Sabonis hit 2 free throws, tied the game. And then a Tyler Hero air ball with like a second left sent it to overtime. And then in overtime, DeMar DeRozan took over, Camille.
Yeah. Yeah, DeMar DeRozan said, hey, listen, Fox ain't out here, so there's only one guy who you can count on in the clutch, and he came through for them. He was 4 for 4, 9 points when they got to that second overtime there, and just the fact that they were able to get that game to overtime and then double overtime after being down by 17 in the fourth, that heat zone was giving the Kings fits. And then they finally turned around. Shout out to Keon Ellis, the defense, some big shots, just came through up clutch as well for that team defensively.
Sabonis after the game said, without him, we basically can't win these games. Like giving him that much credit. He played 48 minutes, 17 points, 8 boards, 3 assists, 3 steals, and a block. Hit a couple of big threes in this game.
Kings fans have been clamoring for more Keon Ellis, more. And if there was one bright side of the Mike Brown firing, it was like maybe we can now see more Keon Ellis. You got 48 minutes of him in a double overtime game.
Yeah. How much more do you want, Kings fans?
Right. How much more do you need now?
I mean, Sabonis played 50 minutes. He had a wild game, 21 points, 18 boards, 11 assists. He had some massive boards in this game. Jimmy Butler, 0s across the board.
No surprise. He's at home chilling. I saw he posted the video of himself working out just to, make sure everybody knows he's still putting in that effort on the side.
He was at the Heat facility today. That's got to be so awkward.
Yes. I can't even imagine that. With Dame in Portland, they locked him out the gym. So Jimmy being able to still come in there, that has to be little awkward.
By the way, I heard that the Bucks are interested in Jimmy Butler.
I'm sure. Hey, any good GM's going to make the call just to see.
Literally, the only thing that the Bucks can trade, like legally with the salary cap, is Giannis.
Yeah, that's not going to happen.
Yeah,
so,
there's no way.
It's a moot point.
Not going to happen. A moot point I thought was that the Knicks were going to win this game against the Orlando Magic without Paolo Franz and without Jalen Suggs as well. And the Magic get the win, an absolutely great win for the Orlando Magic. Let's hear from our guy, Philip Rossman-Reich.
It's Philip Rossman-Reich, the host of Locked On Magic, as the Orlando Magic defeat the New York Knicks 93-84 on a tough back-to-back without their top 4 scorers, all the stuff that's normal. And this has always been the thing about the Orlando Magic this year. They're going to fight, they're going to compete, they're going to defend, and it's just about whether they can make the shots down the stretch that enable them to win games. It's whether they can score enough. On Sunday night against Utah, they couldn't score enough. Eventually, the defense collapsed. On Monday night, they did score enough. Just enough, maybe, but they did score enough. They made the shots, they made the plays when they had to, whether it was Kentavious Caldwell-Pope hitting a couple of big threes in the fourth quarter to extend the lead out to 10, whether it was Cole Anthony leading the way with 24 points after he's been in and out of the rotation all year, whether it's Wendell Carter continuing a string of strong games. The Orlando Magic have said this throughout the course of this period without both Paolo Banchero and Franz Wagner. We are enough. It's because they have a lot of faith in the individual pieces on this team. And while there's been a lot of players who haven't lived up to expectations, they did so on this day. And as the Magic are nearing the hopeful return of Paolo Banchero sometime in the next few games, and it is the next few games probably, the Magic are starting to feel a lot more whole and should be equally as dangerous.
Yeah, it's going to be wild to see Paolo come back, but it's insane to look at this starting 5 and say that this is the team that beat the Knicks. Now, the Knicks didn't have Towns. However,
but still,
Tristan da Silva, Caleb Houston, Goga Batazzi, Cole Anthony, KCP. That's the starting 5 that won in New York.
And Cole Anthony was out here hooping. Somebody whose name has been brought up is like, could he possibly be traded just because of how this team's depth has been created over this offseason? But he came up big in this game. And one key component of it was the 3-point shooting. To hold the Knicks to 4 made threes in the game, that's unbelievable. Like, the Magic aren't a team that's going to put up a lot of threes themselves or make up a lot of them. So if they can get in situations where they can hold their opponent to 4 in this situation, but fewer than what they make, they're going to be in good shape with the way they play defense.
Not only just 4 made threes, 36 total field goals made. I had to look it up. Teams this season that only make 36 field goals or less are 40 and 150 this year. That is a 21% win percentage right there. And Philip mentioned it's the second night of a travel back-to-back for the Magic too, and they were playing in the Garden. The Knicks usually have 121 offensive rating. They had 104 tonight. It was like their third worst offensive game of the season. Absolutely wild. And they held Jalen Brunson to 8 of 21. They have so many bodies. Even if you get a switch on the Orlando Magic defense, it's Wendell Carter Jr., or it's Jonathan Isaac, or it's Anthony Black, or it's all these like switchable defenders. Unless you get Gogo Batasi on a switch, like that's the only guy maybe that you could get, and all of a sudden that's a big advantage for a guard like that.
And that's the difficult part, because I think about back in the day when it was the Heat Spurs finals, and we see like LeBron looking over to the side when he saw Kawhi check back in, and he's just like, man, like here we go, I gotta work now. And that's like what you look at with this Magic team, where it's like you are just going to have a long day the entire time you're trying to go up against that defense. They are top notch, and to see them still defending at this level, missing so many key pieces, it's impressive.
Very impressive for them. The Indiana Pacers didn't start the season impressive, but they have been over the last couple of weeks. Let's hear from Tony East of Locked On Pacers about the Pacers win tonight against the Nets.
Well, if it isn't a winning record for the Indiana Pacers, they're 19-18, their first winning record since they were 1-0. They beat the Brooklyn Nets tonight in Brooklyn, 113-99, a very unceremonious win. The Nets had 9-10 available players, none of them particularly effective normally, except for Nick Claxton. Should have been a game the Pacers win easily, and yet they've lost to Charlotte twice this year. They've lost to Toronto twice this year. They lost to the Nets earlier this season. Pacers don't get the right to just walk through these teams normally, but they did today. Awesome second quarter, awesome fourth quarter for the Pacers, guided them to this one. Ben Mathurin is fitting in while standing out. That's what he does when he's looking his best. 20 points for him in this one. Another great defensive game. He's made a lot of great plays recently. 23 points for Tyrese Haliburton. Pacers record when he reaches 20 points still phenomenal. Pacers looking good. They could get as high as 6th in the East pending the results tonight. They've won 9 of 12. Haliburton's better. Team's defending a little better. They've got a chance to do something if they can keep this up, and we'll have much more on Locked On Pacers.
Yeah, the Pacers started the season 9 of 14. They are 10-8 since then. That's since December 6th.
Something, they're making their way. I can't talk.
Just can't say anything nice about the Pacers, can you?
It's hard, Nick. It's hard.
Oh, I can't say many things nice about the Phoenix Suns, and we'll talk about them coming up. They did get a win, but who has it worse right now, the Suns or the Sixers going forward? We'll talk about that and more coming up. Today's episode of Locked On NBA Game Night is brought to you by Prize Picks. Prize Picks is daily fantasy made easy. All you have to do is go to Prize Picks, see what is available for you. You can play it in Texas and a bunch of other states. So even if you can't do some of the other games, go check out, see if you can play FanDuel or see if you can play Prize Picks. Pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 1,000 times your cash. Basketball's heating up with Prize Picks. It's easy for diehard fans or just somebody that wants a little investment. You're watching Pacers and Nets, and you're like, there's nobody playing for the Nets. Well, go ahead and just put a couple of players from the Pacers down and pick some more or less on some of their stats, and you can win. You get your money fast, sometimes as quick as 15 minutes. That seems impossible to get your money in 15 minutes, but you can do that. They got the flex play. They have all kinds of other kind of things that you can do. Now's the perfect time to join. Download the app today. Use that code LOCKEDONNBA to get $50 instantly when you play your first $5 lineup. That's right. You don't even need to win. Download the app, Prize Picks. Use the code LOCKEDONNBA. Put down $5 on a lineup, $50 right in your account. Boom. Play that with Prize Picks. It's guaranteed. Prize Picks. Run your game.
Big chicken, baby.
Zion Williamson and porn star.
Take that for that.
Count it up. Count it up. Count it up. Count it up. Count it up.
It's Counted Up, where we count all the most interesting, fun things in the NBA. Let's start with the Phoenix Suns versus the Philadelphia 76ers. The Suns get a win against them. No Joel Embiid, but the Phoenix Suns snap a 4-game losing streak. Let's hear from Ben Garcia of Locked On Suns.
Well, the Phoenix Suns get their first win of the new year, defeating the 76ers 109-99 in kind of a curb-stomping fashion in the second half, where the Phoenix Suns really exercised those third-quarter demons, beating up on the 76ers 36-27 in that third quarter, and a lineup change is what really sparked the Phoenix Suns today, given Bradley Beal doing his best, Lou Williams doing his best Jamal Crawford impersonation. Heck, throw Malik Monk in there as well. Coming off the bench scoring 25 points. This was a lineup change that was seen as a panic move, but ultimately it's what propelled the Suns in this game. Now listen, who knows how far this can take the Suns, but it was clear that change was necessary, and adding in energy guys like a COBY, Ryan Dunn, and Oso Ighodaro in the mix just helped this Phoenix Suns team get that first win of the new year.
Yeah, I was listening to Locked On Suns earlier today, and Brendan and Ben were both like, when's the last time the Suns went on a really big run? Even like, a 20-4 run or something like that. When did they get, it doesn't seem like they've done that in a while. Well, third quarter, they were down by 6, and they went on a 25-6 run to go up 11 by the end of that third quarter. Bradley Beal had 14 points in that third quarter.
Bradley Beal did not seem the most pleased after the game when being asked about him going off the bench.
You call him those FU buckets? Is that what you're calling them?
That's what it looked like to me, but he gave them what they needed, leading the team in scoring. Like, I understand they tried to make this shift again to try to juice up their bench, and it actually paid off because, you had Bradley Beal coming off the bench giving you 25.
The big question, though,
Count it up.
which team is worse off right now going forward? The Suns or the Sixers?
I'm going to go with the Sixers here. That was Embiid's 21st missed game of the season. Paul George is just offensively, it's not looking quite complete. I don't think that this is what a lot of Philly fans signed up for offensively from Paul George. The defense has been good, but just some questions on how this roster really fits, in my opinion.
This is a tough one.
Go ahead, get that petty out, Nick. I know you want to say something about the Suns.
The Suns have Booker's 28 years old. I don't think he's probably not an all-star this season. He signed for next year $53 million, then $57, then $61 million over the next 3 years. Like, you're paying him to be a max player. Beal and KD are only signed for one more year after this one. They don't really have a lot of draft picks because they traded them all already. And so now, what's your future? The Sixers have 24-year-old Tyrese Maxey signed up. They've got Jared McCain coming back from that injury next year. But then they also, like you said, have a 30-year-old Embiid who is broken. Yeah. And Paul George, who's 34, signed for 3 more years at $51 million, $54, and $56.
Oh.
It's tough. I'm going to go with the team that just has a couple younger guys that are good, in Maxey and Jared McCain. And it's like they're beating them by just like
a little bit.
Like a painted nail of Jared McCain. That's how they beat him. They beat him right there. But man, this is a wild state that these two teams are in right now.
Yeah, unexpected for sure. But a lot of season left for them to try to make something out of it.
Sixers also in the East. I'll just throw that one.
Yeah, a little bit easier that way.
The Milwaukee Bucks get a win against the Toronto Raptors. Middleton was out in this game, and the Raptors were finally healthy. It's their first time that they've had their core together, I think, since like March 1st, Sean Woodley told me today. And Giannis only had 11 points in this game.
Count it up.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. That's how many points Giannis had in this game. Camille, how did they get this win with that stat line?
Look, the Raptors made it clear that they were not going to let Giannis beat them. They were loading up against Giannis, and he didn't look to force anything. He just continued to facilitate. A lot of the assists that he had in this game in this triple-double, they were 3-point shots, and the Bucks were really hot from 3, so they were able to run it up in that way on the Raptors, who are a very poor shooting team. Just didn't look great. So it was a big win for the Bucks, who have lost 4 of their last 5 coming into this game. All losses to sub 500 teams. So to see them get this win over an 8-win Raptors team, it was needed. It was needed.
I have a bonus.
Count it up.
In the third quarter, Scotty Barnes leaned in on a Giannis versus Damian Lillard conversation. Is that funny or a felony in the NBA?
Oh, it's funny. It's funny. I'm here for it. It's funny.
He was like, Lillard was like leaning up to whisper into Giannis's ear, and Scotty Barnes just like stuck his ear right between their.
And then he made sure they knew he heard them too. He could have walked away like unassumingly.
Could have got away with it.
Laughed.
So funny. Bucks get the win in that one. The Pistons get a win, and you know what? I'm not going to even set this up. Kuka Hill is as excited as anybody about everything happening in Detroit right now.
The Detroit Pistons defeat the Portland Trail Blazers, their 4th straight win in a row. They are now 18-18. They've gotten back to 500. This is their best record at this point since 2018-2019, when Blake Griffin was wearing a Detroit Pistons jersey. Host of the Locked On Pistons podcast, Kuka Hill here. I don't really want to spend time just discussing this Trailblazers game. Great game, great win, great game from Cade, great game from THJ, Tobias, all that kind of stuff. They got the game, they won the game, it was a close game, all that kind of stuff. This is a great time to be a Detroit sports fan. For a few years there, for a good 7 years, people were making fun of Detroit sports all off season. All off season, we saw the graphics. The worst losing or the worst winning percentage over the last 7 years, Detroit sports, blah, blah. Well, right now you got the Lions who are the number 1 seed. You got the Pistons who are 1 game back from the 5th seed. You have the Tigers going on an improbable run. Who's laughing at Detroit now? 18-18. Yeah, we're taking wins at 500. Is what it is. Detroit's here, baby.
Camille.
Count it up.
Who's laughing at Detroit now, Camille? Who's laughing at Detroit?
Not me. I can tell you that. Not me. I respect it. I mean, the Pistons just won 4 straight games. That's the first time they won 4 straight games since March of 2019. I'm here for it.
Happy for Koo. After last year, what he had to go through with his team to see how bad they were. Good game for Cade Cunningham in this one against Portland to win. Yeah, they're 18-18. They're 7th in the East right now.
Yeah, playoffs are on their mind. They are going for it.
Absolutely wild. Last game of the night, the Spurs against the Chicago Bulls. The Spurs led this game for 46 minutes and 23 seconds. Literally, like almost the entirety of the game. The Bulls in the last couple of minutes, they get a Vooch 3, a Levine 3, a COBY White layup against Wemby 1-on-1, got him in ISO, and shifty, like cross back and forth and got a layup. And then the dunk. A huge dunk with Wemby trying to come over. It was late help. It put the Bulls up 3. The Bulls end up getting the win. My question on this one.
Count it up.
Who's the player in the NBA you'd most want to dunk on?
Ooh, Wemby has to be up there. It's got to be Wemby just because he's 7'4". Like, it's the spectacle of it. Before, I probably would have said someone just tough where it's like a Steven Adams because you know he might get thrown out the air or something like that. If you
would want to dunk on Steven Adams?
Oh, I would love to try to do that.
Oh my God. That's the difference between you and me. I'm okay with all my bones being not broken.
Because if you do it, you're gonna have a beautiful poster.
I guess, or maybe he's holding me up like the Deadpool and Wolverine thing. Like maybe in the midair he just like picks me up and just does that. It's Rudy Gobert for me. It's just a classic one. Do yourself a favor and go back and look up the Spencer Dinwiddie dunk on Rudy Gobert in the playoffs in 2022. It was just a great moment.
Giannis has a good one over Rudy too that I enjoyed when he was still on the Jazz.
Just dunking on Rudy Gobert. I don't know. There's something about it.
It is something special about that because it's Rudy Gobert. Like, yeah, we don't get into it, Nick, but there's something about Rudy that just kind of makes you want to dunk on him a little bit.
I think everybody except for people that are Utah Jazz fans or maybe currently Timberwolves fans probably agree with us on this point.
Yeah, probably. I'm sure someone say like Draymond. It's like he's short, but it's like
I don't want to dunk on Draymond. I'm not walking away with all my body parts.
See, I'm going for it all.
Draymond there's an elbow. He's doing the elbow up like right into your thigh or something. There's
uppercutting you while you up there.
Oh my, yeah, it's something with Draymond that's happening on that. There it is. That's all the games in the association tonight. Go check out Locked On NBA with Doug Branson, Matt Moore, and Hayes. They do a great job in the midday show. Game night, every game, every night. That's what we do. Thanks for hanging out with us on Locked On NBA Game Night. Go check out all the other shows that cover your favorite team every day. Thanks so much for listening to Locked On NBA Game Night.